Let me tell you something about jealousy. It rarely walks into your life and announces itself. Most of the time, it hides behind a smile, a joke, a strange comment, or a person you genuinely believed was happy for you. That's what makes jealousy so difficult to recognize. You can have someone around you for years and never realize that every time you move forward, something inside them becomes uncomfortable. You get the promotion, start making more money, improve yourself, build something you're proud of, or simply become happier with your life, and suddenly their energy changes. They don't necessarily attack you directly. Sometimes they become quieter. Sometimes the compliments disappear. Sometimes the jokes become sharper. Sometimes they start finding problems with things they never criticized before. And because this person may be someone you trust, you start questioning yourself instead of questioning what you're seeing. The Stoics understood something important about human nature. You cannot control what another person carries inside them, but you can control how much access you give it to your peace. Marcus Aurelius spent his life surrounded by ambition, rivalry, betrayal, and people who wanted what he possessed. Yet his answer was never to become obsessed with what everyone thought about him. His responsibility was to govern himself. That's exactly what you need to understand here. Recognizing jealousy isn't about becoming paranoid and assuming everyone secretly hates you. It's about learning to recognize patterns, so another person's insecurity doesn't become a distraction in your life. Today we're going to break down 7 clear signs that someone may be extremely jealous of you, including the subtle behaviors people often dismiss until the damage has already been done. Some of these signs may immediately remind you of someone. Others may make you reconsider relationships you've never questioned before. But don't use these lessons to become bitter. Use them to become aware. Because once you understand what you're dealing with, you don't have to argue with it, prove yourself to it, or shrink yourself because of it. And if you value lessons like this about Stoicism, human behavior, discipline, and protecting your inner peace, subscribe to Stoic Heritage now. We explore these principles every week to help you become harder to disturb and wiser about the people you allow close to you. Now pay attention, because the first sign is usually the easiest to notice, but it's also the one people make the most excuses for. The first sign is one of the easiest to recognize once you stop making excuses for it. They can never genuinely be happy when something good happens to you. Pay attention to what happens when you share good news. Maybe you finally get the promotion you've been working toward. Maybe your business starts growing. Maybe you buy something you've wanted for years, improve your health, enter a good relationship, or finally accomplish a goal people watched you struggle to achieve. You expect someone close to you to celebrate with you, but instead, you notice something strange. Their excitement feels forced. Their response is unusually quiet. They quickly change the subject, or somehow they find a negative angle in something that should have been a positive moment. This is where jealousy becomes difficult, because jealous people don't always say, "I'm jealous of you." Instead, they'll say things like, "Well, don't get too excited yet," or "You were lucky," or "Let's see how long it lasts." Sometimes they'll immediately remind you of an old failure. You tell them about something you've achieved today, and suddenly they're talking about something you did wrong 3 years ago. Ask yourself why. Why does your progress suddenly make them interested in your past? Sometimes it's because acknowledging how far you've come would force them to confront how they feel about where they are. But be careful here. One awkward reaction doesn't automatically mean someone is jealous. Look for a pattern. A genuine friend can have a difficult season in their own life and still want good things for you. They may even admit, "I'm struggling right now, but I'm proud of you." Jealousy looks different. Your wins repeatedly seem to irritate them. Your growth changes their mood. Your happiness becomes something they need to minimize. Marcus Aurelius understood that another person's reaction should never determine how you value what you've earned. The Stoic response isn't to confront everyone, become suspicious, or start showing off even more. It's to observe without becoming emotionally controlled by what you observe. If someone cannot celebrate with you, you don't need to convince them that your success deserves celebration. Your success is not their failure. Your progress doesn't take anything away from them, and you should never feel guilty because your life is moving forward while someone else is still finding their way. So watch carefully who becomes genuinely happy when you rise and who suddenly becomes uncomfortable. People reveal a great deal about themselves when you succeed. Sometimes you learn more about a relationship from one good moment in your life than from 100 difficult ones. The second sign is harder to catch because it often sounds like concern. They constantly throw shade at you, but they disguise it as advice. You know the type of person I'm talking about. No matter what you're doing, they always seem to have something negative to add. You tell them you're starting a business, and instead of encouraging you, they immediately start explaining why businesses fail. You tell them you're going after a new opportunity, and suddenly they're reminding you how competitive the industry is. You tell them you're excited about someone you're dating, and somehow they find a reason why you should be careful. On the surface, it sounds like they're protecting you. They may even say, "I'm only telling you this because I care about you." But when it happens again and again, you have to start paying attention to what their words are actually doing to you. Real advice helps you see something more clearly. Jealous advice often leaves you feeling smaller. There's a difference. Someone who genuinely cares about you can disagree with your decision and still respect your ability to make it. They can warn you about a risk without making you feel foolish for trying. But a jealous person often uses advice as an opportunity to plant doubt. They'll point out everything that could go wrong, while ignoring everything you're doing right. They'll question your ability, your timing, your experience, and sometimes even your motives. Then if you react, they'll hide behind the same excuse: "I was only trying to help." This is why the Stoics place so much importance on knowing your own principles. Epictetus taught that if you want to improve, you have to become comfortable with other people misunderstanding or criticizing your choices. You cannot build a strong life while allowing every outside opinion to become an instruction. Some advice deserves serious consideration. Some deserves to be heard and then left exactly where you found it. So start paying attention to patterns. Does this person offer useful guidance and also celebrate your progress? Or do they suddenly become full of advice every time you're becoming more confident, successful, or independent? Do their words make you wiser, or do they repeatedly make you question whether you're capable? You don't have to argue with them. You don't have to prove that they're jealous. Marcus Aurelius would remind you that your job is to govern your own response, not diagnose everyone else's motives. Listen calmly, take whatever is useful, and leave the rest behind. Because sometimes the person telling you to be realistic isn't trying to protect you from disappointment. Sometimes they're uncomfortable watching you become something they haven't yet had the courage to become themselves. The third sign is one that can hurt the most, especially when it comes from someone you genuinely trust. They have plenty to say about you when you're not around, but somehow they become very quiet when you're standing in front of them. You've probably seen this before. Someone smiles with you, jokes with you, asks about your plans, and acts like everything between you is perfectly fine. Then eventually, you hear from someone else that this same person has been criticizing you, questioning your decisions, discussing your private business, or trying to convince other people that you're not as successful, happy, or capable as you appear. And when you finally realize what's happening, the first question you ask yourself is usually, "Why didn't they just say this to me?" That's exactly the point. A person who genuinely has an issue with you can bring that issue to you directly. They may disagree with you. They may even criticize you. But there's honesty in that because they're giving you an opportunity to respond. Jealousy often operates differently. It prefers an audience. Instead of coming to you, the person goes to everyone around you, because the goal isn't always to solve a problem. Sometimes the goal is to change how other people see you. If they can't stop your progress, they may try to reduce the value of that progress in other people's minds. And notice when the gossip becomes strongest. Sometimes, it's right after something good happens to you. You get recognized at work, and suddenly people are hearing that you're getting arrogant. Your business starts doing well, and now someone is telling people you just got lucky. You improve your life, become more disciplined, or start setting stronger boundaries, and suddenly the story becomes that you've changed. Of course you've changed. Growth changes people. The real question is why your improvement bothers them enough to become a conversation when you're not even in the room. The Stoic response is important here, because Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself not to waste his character responding to someone else's poor character. If people speak badly about you, you don't need to launch a campaign to correct every rumor or chase every person who misunderstood you. If there's something worth addressing, address it directly and calmly. But don't allow gossip to drag you into the same behavior you're criticizing. Let people talk. Keep your conduct clean. Keep your attention on what you're building. Over time, character has a way of exposing both truth and falsehood, because someone talking behind your back can damage a conversation, but they only damage your peace when you turn around and start living for what they're saying. The fourth sign is something you might not notice immediately, because competition between friends, co-workers, or even family members can sometimes seem harmless. But pay attention when someone constantly needs to compete with you in almost every area of life. You accomplish something, and suddenly they need to accomplish something bigger. You buy something you've wanted for a long time, and shortly afterward they're showing you something more expensive. You mention a place you traveled to, and instead of simply being interested in your experience, they immediately tell you about somewhere better they've been. You share a personal milestone, and before you've even finished talking, they're already searching for a way to bring the conversation back to something they've achieved. After a while, you start realizing that you're not simply sharing your life with this person. In their mind, you're participating in a competition you never agreed to enter. Now let's be clear. Healthy competition isn't automatically jealousy. Sometimes being around ambitious people pushes you to work harder, think bigger, and improve yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. The difference is intention. A healthy competitor wants to become better because your progress inspires them. A jealous competitor wants to become better, specifically so they can feel above you. They aren't asking, "How can I improve my life?" They're quietly asking, "How can I make sure I'm not behind this person?" And that's why nothing you achieve ever seems to settle the situation. The moment you move forward again, the competition starts all over. This is exactly the kind of comparison the Stoics warned against. Seneca understood that constantly measuring yourself against other people creates a life where satisfaction becomes almost impossible. There's always someone with more money, more recognition, more influence, or something you don't have. If your peace depends on being ahead of everyone around you, you'll never actually experience peace. You'll spend your entire life looking sideways instead of looking forward. And that's what you need to remember when someone keeps competing with you. You don't have to compete back. Don't start buying things to impress them. Don't announce your next move just to prove you're still ahead. Don't let their insecurity recruit you into a race that has nothing to do with your purpose. Marcus Aurelius constantly brought his attention back to his own character, his own responsibilities, and the work directly in front of him. That's the Stoic response. Let them race if they want to race. You keep building. Because once you start measuring your progress against someone else's life, you've allowed their jealousy to change the direction of yours. And the strongest response to someone trying to outdo you is often very simple: refuse to play the game. The fifth sign is one you really have to pay attention to, because, at first, it can simply look like someone who enjoys talking about themselves. But when jealousy is involved, there's a pattern. They struggle to let you have your moment without somehow bringing the attention back to themselves. You tell them something you're proud of, and before you can even finish the story, they're telling you about something bigger they accomplished. You share that you're going through a difficult time, and instead of listening, they immediately explain why what they're dealing with is worse. You finally reach a goal you've been working toward for months, and rather than allowing you to enjoy that moment, they find some way to remind everyone about what they've done. It's almost as though your life can only be discussed after it has been compared to theirs. And here's what makes this different from an ordinary conversation. Healthy relationships naturally go back and forth. Sometimes you talk about yourself, sometimes they talk about themselves, and both people feel heard. But with someone who is deeply jealous, your moment seems to create discomfort. They can't simply say, "That's amazing, I'm happy for you," and leave it there. Your achievement becomes something they need to match, minimize, or redirect. If you say your business had its best month, they'll tell you about someone they know making 10 times more. If you say you're proud of losing weight, they'll remind you that they lost more. If you share something painful, they'll immediately introduce a story that makes their suffering seem greater. Whatever the subject is, somehow the spotlight has to return to them. The Stoics understood why comparison creates this kind of behavior. Epictetus taught that when you measure your worth through external things, such as status, recognition, possessions, and praise, you become dependent on constantly proving yourself. Someone else's success then begins to feel threatening, because your sense of worth requires you to remain ahead. That's why a jealous person may struggle to simply listen. Your moment forces them to think about themselves. But don't make the mistake of fighting for the spotlight. You don't need to interrupt them, compete with their story, or prove that your achievement matters more. That only pulls you into the same insecurity. If these lessons are helping you recognize patterns you've overlooked before, subscribe to Stoic Heritage. Here we use Stoic wisdom to understand human behavior, protect our peace, and develop the self-control to respond wisely instead of emotionally. Remember this: someone else's need to make everything about themselves does not make your experience less valuable. You don't need their attention to validate your progress. Let them have the spotlight if they desperately need it. You have something more important to protect: your peace. The sixth sign is one that can really get under your skin if you don't understand what's happening. They constantly find ways to make your achievements seem smaller than they really are. You work hard for something, you sacrifice for it, you finally achieve it, and instead of simply acknowledging what you've done, they immediately search for a reason why it isn't that impressive. You get promoted, and they say, well, they probably needed someone quickly. You start making good money, and suddenly it's, you just got lucky. You build something successful, and they tell you, anybody could have done that. Sometimes, they won't even criticize you directly. They'll make a little joke, laugh, and then say, I'm only playing with you. But notice something. Those jokes always seem to appear when you're doing well. This is where jealousy can become very subtle, because the person may never openly admit that your success bothers them. Instead, they try to change the meaning of your success. If they can convince themselves that you were lucky, then they don't have to acknowledge your discipline. If they can say you had connections, they don't have to acknowledge your effort. If they can point to every advantage you had, they don't have to confront the possibility that you simply worked for something and earned it. And sometimes, if you hear those comments often enough, you begin doing something dangerous. You start minimizing yourself before they get the opportunity. Someone compliments you, and you immediately say, it wasn't a big deal. You achieve something significant, and you're afraid to celebrate, because you don't want anyone to think you're showing off. Now their jealousy has started changing your relationship with your own success. The Stoics would tell you not to hand someone that kind of control. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that praise and criticism are both external. Neither one changes the actual character of what you've done. If you acted with discipline, worked honestly, and earned something through your own effort, another person's dismissive comment cannot erase that reality. Their opinion doesn't rewrite the work you put in. And watch what happens when you confront this kind of person. Sometimes they'll immediately turn it around and say, you're too sensitive, or you can't take a joke. Don't get trapped trying to prove their intentions. You don't need a confession from them before you're allowed to recognize a pattern. Know what you worked for. Know what it cost you. Celebrate without arrogance, but don't apologize for succeeding. Because humility means you don't believe you're better than everyone else. It does not mean pretending that what you've accomplished means nothing, just to make an insecure person feel comfortable. The seventh sign is one of the most dangerous, because if you hear it often enough, you can actually start feeling guilty for doing well. They make your success sound like something you should apologize for. You tell them something good happened, and instead of celebrating with you, they say, must be nice. You finally buy something you've worked years to afford, and they say, some of us don't have money like that. You get an opportunity, and suddenly, you're hearing about how lucky you are, how easy you've had it, or how other people never get the same chances. They may never directly tell you that you don't deserve what you have, but that's exactly how they want you to feel. And if you're not careful, you start carrying guilt for blessings you worked hard to create. Here's what you need to understand. Your success is not an attack on anybody else. Your progress does not automatically mean someone else has failed. But jealousy has a strange way of turning another person's achievement into a personal comparison. Instead of looking at your success and saying, if they can improve their life, maybe I can improve mine too, a jealous person looks at your success and asks, why them and not me? That's when the little comments begin. That's when your happiness starts getting treated like arrogance. That's when celebrating yourself suddenly becomes showing off. And before long, You may find yourself hiding good news just to avoid making certain people uncomfortable. Don't do that to yourself. Seneca repeatedly warned against allowing the opinions of the crowd to determine how you live. If you know how much effort something required, if you know the nights you stayed awake, the sacrifices you made, the failures you recovered from, and the discipline it took to reach that point, then don't allow someone who only sees the result to make you ashamed of the journey. At the same time, Stoicism teaches balance. Success doesn't give you permission to become arrogant. You don't need to rub your achievements in anyone's face. You don't need to prove that you're better than somebody else. You can remain humble and still be proud of what you've built. Those two things can exist together. And this is where you have to protect your peace. When someone says, "Must be nice," you don't need to explain yourself. When they suggest you simply got lucky, you don't need to list every sacrifice you've made. Let them believe what they want to believe. Marcus Aurelius understood that other people's judgments belong to them. Your character belongs to you. Never shrink your life just so somebody else doesn't have to confront theirs. Keep growing, remain humble, and keep your attention on your own path. Because the moment you begin apologizing for becoming better, jealousy has already accomplished exactly what it wanted. Now that you know the 7 signs, there's something even more important we need to talk about. What do you actually do when you realize someone around you may be jealous of you? Because recognizing jealousy is only useful if you know how to respond to it. And this is where many people make a mistake. The moment they realize someone is jealous, they become angry. They start confronting people, trying to expose them, trying to prove that they're jealous, or sometimes deliberately showing off even more, just to make that person uncomfortable. But if you do that, you've allowed their jealousy to change your behavior, and now they're controlling more of your attention than they ever deserved. The Stoic response is different. You observe, you understand, and then you protect your peace without creating unnecessary drama. Marcus Aurelius dealt with people who criticized him, competed with him, betrayed him, and probably wanted his position, yet he constantly reminded himself that another person's character was their responsibility. His responsibility was his own response. That's the mindset you need. If someone cannot celebrate your success, you don't need to force them to celebrate. If they talk behind your back, you don't need to chase every rumor. If they constantly compete with you, don't compete back. If they belittle your achievements, don't spend 20 minutes proving how hard you worked. The more you react, the more energy you give to something that should never have become your focus. But protecting your peace doesn't mean ignoring everything. Sometimes distance is necessary. If someone repeatedly turns your good news into negativity, stop giving them early access to your plans. If every achievement becomes gossip, become more private. If conversations constantly leave you doubting yourself, reduce how much influence that person has over your decisions. You don't have to make a dramatic announcement. You don't have to say, "I'm cutting you off because you're jealous." Sometimes boundaries work best when they're quiet. And remember this, because it's important. Jealousy is a human emotion. Feeling jealous doesn't automatically make someone evil. What matters is what they do with that feeling. A mature person notices envy and uses it as information. They ask themselves, what does this show me that I want to improve? An unhealthy person turns envy into resentment, competition, gossip, and sabotage. Epictetus taught that you cannot control what another person thinks or does, but you can control whether you allow it to disturb your judgment. So don't become bitter. Don't become suspicious of everyone who enters your life. Simply become more observant. You don't need revenge on jealous people. You don't need their confession either. You need awareness, boundaries, and enough self-control to keep walking your path without allowing their insecurity to become your distraction. Here's where I want you to be careful, because recognizing jealousy can create another problem if you handle it the wrong way. Once you start noticing these signs, it's easy to become suspicious of everybody. Someone doesn't celebrate your success the way you expected, and you immediately call them jealous. Someone gives you criticism you don't like, and you assume they're threatened by you. Someone achieves something after you do, and suddenly you think they're competing with you. Don't fall into that trap. The purpose of recognizing jealousy is not to make you paranoid. It's to make you wiser about patterns. One moment doesn't define a person. Repeated behavior does. And even when jealousy is clearly present, you still have a choice about the kind of person you're going to become in response to it. This is where Stoicism matters most. Marcus Aurelius dealt with betrayal, rivalry, criticism, and people who undoubtedly wanted what he had. Yet he repeatedly reminded himself not to become like the people whose behavior disappointed him. That's a powerful lesson, because someone else's bitterness can easily create bitterness in you. Their gossip can make you want to gossip back. Their competition can make you want to prove you're better. Their disrespect can make you want revenge. Before long, the person you were trying to protect yourself from has succeeded in changing your character. Don't give anyone that kind of power. If they're jealous, let them deal with their jealousy. If they underestimate you, let them. If they can't celebrate your progress, keep progressing anyway. You don't need to dim your light, but you also don't need to shine it directly in someone's face, just to prove a point. Keep your dignity, keep your discipline, keep working. And remember, jealousy itself is human. Almost everyone has felt envy at some point. The real test is what a person does with it. A wise person sees someone else's success and asks, "What can I learn from this?" An insecure person asks, "How can I make their success look smaller?" That's the difference you should watch for. So look carefully at the people around you, but look at yourself too. Make sure you're not practicing the same behaviors you're learning to recognize in others. Celebrate people when they win. Give credit when it's deserved. Let another person have their moment without turning it into a comparison. Seneca taught that the best response to another person's flaws is not simply condemning them, but making sure you don't reproduce those flaws yourself. That's how you protect your peace without losing your humanity. You don't become colder. You become harder to provoke, harder to distract, and much more careful about whose behavior you allow to influence your own.